welcome you all. Why do we have to set the objectives and why do we have to set guardrails while discussing this current topic? So basically, what we will do today is try to get an overview and a systemic understanding. By this, I mean that we are going to discuss just the top lines, zoom out and discuss an overall point of view, right? And we are not going to get too much into details because especially when you are like trying to get a grip of a vast topic like digital and try to understand how that fits into your career, how does that fit into your business. If we go too detailed, it may just result in, might just confuse you, right? Therefore, we are going to keep this discussion fairly in an, fairly as an overview and purely systemic in nature. Probably I'm going to oversimplify some of the things also a lot for your clarity. One more thing that we're going to do in this session is to derive more value through observation. So rather than just throwing some jargon on the slides, I will ask you guys to reflect on your lives as a consumer. I will ask you to reflect on things happening around you, to the media environment, to the business environment, right? I will ask you to reflect back on how you're in your current company or in your friend's company or in your neighbor's business, how things are run. All right, so a lot of things are going to be derived from things that we see all around us. All right, so those are the two guardrails or objectives that we're going to set for the session. And now comes the more important question. I know these are the questions that are kind of like are probably making you wonder a lot, and probably this is the reason why you guys are here, right? Why should we think? Why should we bring about digitization? So I'm not even discussing digital marketing first. I'm thinking digitization. Why should things be digital, right? Why should everything be digital and not be done on pen and paper or in a traditional manner, right? And then of course, how do we, and then of course, the next pertinent question about how should we learn and practice digital marketing. Now to, for anything and everything, whenever you guys are deciding on your career, right, you have to look at the overall business and consumer context. So for example, let's say 15 years back or 20 years back, you may have noticed your parents had a frenzy to push everyone into engineering, right? Literally everyone wanted to be an electronics engineer or IT engineer. And why did that happen? That's because they saw a lot of technology coming up, 20 years back also, right? A lot of people would work in that particular sector, which meant that people realize, hey, this is a great career opportunity. Let's put in our efforts. Let's make sure that this is where we end up at the end of our career, right? Same way, now if you look at the last 7 years or so, this is how some of the things have stacked up, right? So India is a country of 130 crore people, right? Within this, if you notice, there are 574 million active internet users. That's about 57 crore. So roughly half of the population. Now that means obviously there are kids or babies or very senior people who are not able to use the internet. But even with that in picture, almost half the population uses internet at least once a month. And that also shows massive growth. It's not that this is just coming in from metros, right? This is coming from tier 2 towns, rural areas, and very, very high speed of penetration. And what does this translate to is that it's going to only grow more and more, right? So another interesting thing is that India is also a very young country, right? So year on year, we are actually, our average age is getting lesser and lesser. So it's only going to accelerate further. And the youngest generation, we don't even call them digital savvy or tech savvy. They grow up with such amount of understanding of digital that they are digital immersed, right? That understanding of digital is almost innate, and it is not something that they learn later, correct? So they grow up using an iPad and a tablet, right? So moving on from here, this is the consumer context. So for any business to be viable, first we have to understand, hey, what are people doing? What is the interest in that particular business, right? Then, so that's from the front of the technology growth and adoption that we have seen and the consumer behavior that we have seen. Now let's try to tie these two pieces together. Now, how has the consumer behavior changed? Now take 7 years back or 8 years back, when I have to commute from one part of the city to another. If I don't have a personal vehicle, I will take a bus or an auto or hail a cab and go. Versus today, I'll not think twice, will just fire up my phone, use Ola or Uber and get from point A to B. It was unimaginable that we will shop groceries online, right? 7 years back, 8 years back, if you go to an average, Indian household and ask them if they will get their grocery online, they will be like, no, I would want to get all of that in person, right? I will never order online. Versus today, you have offers, Big Basket, Swiggy, so many of these apps delivering to every household in India. Very high degree of penetration, whether it is food, grocery, and even think of other consumer internet businesses. Think of payment wallets, financial services. The revolution is incredible, right? That means that with the technology growth and the adoption, there is so much change in consumer behavior that has happened. Now, if you zoom out a little bit more in the industry context or in the business context, it's not even right to call anything traditional versus digital. Now, this made sense 2017, 2018, just for the sake of using a verbatim, people would call something digital versus traditional or digital versus non-digital. Trust me, now there is nothing which is digital versus non-digital. Everything is digital. Take every business, if that's not digitized today, it will get digitized tomorrow, right? Or if something is existing in a traditional manner where there is no digitization, I'm fairly sure that that translates to a lot of inefficiencies or ineffectiveness, and probably that business or that department or that function will go out of relevance someday, right? Even think of, don't think of digital as something that is meant for just marketing teams, right? Just look at your HRs or finance department as well. They use a lot of digital products, right, to manage the internal flow of cash. An accounts manager or a finance manager will have to still use digital tools, correct? So it may not be digital marketing, but things are digital. So I don't know how many of you guys are MBAs or from any business background, but typically when one says marketing has these three larger functions or subdomains under it, right? So what does the marketing department do? One is, of course, consumer understanding, figuring out the user, figuring out his behavior, figuring out what he wants, what product to develop, testing it, building the marketing communications to reach these user would become the next task. Once you have understood the user, you would know what is the communication that you should give to him. How do you familiarize the user about your service or about your product, right? Or once he has used, how do you continue the engagement with the user? All of that, right? And then for all of this, even if that communication is ready, one has to reach the users, correct? Over the right channel, at the right point, at the right time, at the right financial investment. One has to reach the user. Think of, let's say, a soap manufacturing company, a toilet soap manufacturing company. They will have to understand, hey, what is special about my product? What does it means to the consumer? Who is my consumer, right? Based on that, they may build a communication which let's say speaks about how that particular product can offer greater brightness for the skin or glow for the skin. And later, after they have devised their communication, they may use television or social media to reach the consumer and then speak about their product or service. In the digital marketing context also, the marketing team's responsibility remains similar. Got it? So whether it is a marketing a marketing approach of 2005 or marketing approach of 2020, The roles are fairly similar. Nothing hasn't changed. But when somebody says, hey, I am a digital marketing manager, or I am very good at, I am a digital guy, right? Or I have fair understanding of digital, that usually means that this particular segment you may have seen of, this particular particular segment of reaching the user through the right channel becomes key. Got it? And I will help you understand this. Like, for example, if you speak, most people who identify them as digital, they may say, hey, I am a search engine marketing manager, right? Or I am a Facebook marketing manager. Now, what is that fundamental skill of that person that's different from, let's say, a brand manager or a category manager? That fundamental skill is they know certain platforms, they know how the pricing works, the optimization works, how to design and build a campaign and reach the right user. Got it? So very often, this is the segment which is most differentiated from how things used to happen in the past. Of course, if somebody is digital, still, you will know that, for example, if you take a TV advertisement, if you take a television commercial and put it on YouTube, it may not work, or put it on Facebook, it may not work. The creative has to be built grounds up or adapted for each of the channels. That naturally means that, okay, we have to build the right communication, or we have to have a good consumer understanding as well, in terms of like knowing what is the user consuming at which channel, which media can I use to find the right user, how should I communicate a message to this particular user. So trust me, the other two elements still holds equal importance, but usually when you think of calling yourself a digital marketing manager or trying to make an entry to this domain, very often the harder effort has to go into understanding the channels and figuring out how to reach the users. Now let's take a little step back. Very often people misunderstand that digital marketing is important only if you are in marketing, or only if you are a digital marketing manager. But that's not right. Think of anyone and everyone. If you are a human who earns a living, understanding of digital marketing will help you directly or indirectly. Yeah. For example, my father owns a small business in my hometown. He's about 65, not very digital savvy at all. But for him, it's important that his business shows up when somebody does a Google search, right? Then only people will find his cell number and reach his business. Or he may want to make enough digital brochures so that it can be circulated over WhatsApp or social media to people who contact him, so that he can kind of like build awareness or share more information about his services. So for anyone and everyone, digital is important, right? Think of a sales manager. A sales manager, very often, how do you like measure the success of a sales manager? It's about how did he educate the consumers, where did he find the right leads, how did he kind of like keep in touch with the right leads and close the sale, correct? So even for a sales manager, although it might be someone else who may operationalize it for him, still it's so important to understand digital and include that in his line of work. Yeah. So whether it's an enterprise or an individual, or anyone and everyone, regardless of what is the scale that they operate in, digital is important. Cool. Another aspect I wanted to discuss is, I gave the example of sales manager, or right, same way, think of a category manager. Now imagine you are a category manager with any of the consumer internet apps. Let me take an example. Let's say you're a category manager. Let's say you're a category manager with Myntra, right? Now, if you have to manage the various categories within Myntra, you will have to obviously segment the audience, right? Understand which category can be sold to which audience, correct? And then probably run specific advertising to get these folks interested and convert them, correct? So without an understanding of digital, you will probably do a suboptimal job at this. Therefore, just double marking the call out that digital is important for anyone and everyone. Now, this is a small exercise for you. Take a couple of minutes, okay, and think of how digital can change your current job. So, for example, let's say you are a brand manager and you have been struggling to understand digital well, right? But if you understood digital, or if you implemented digital in a better manner, how will your job be different? Yeah. Or if you are, let's say, a student and you don't actually currently work for a firm, but you can think of, let's say, how digital could have made your parents' business work in a better manner, or your friend's business work in a better manner. Or if you have any startup ideas in mind, how will digital enable that startup idea to think deeply in terms of how your job or your business, or if you don't have a job or a business, think of your family members or someone whom you can relate to. Try to understand how a knowledge of digital could make things better. Yeah, just think through for a minute, visualize, and we can continue with the conversation. It'll be nice if you guys have a pen or paper. You can take it out, sketch it out, list down things, maybe even draw the structure of how your business is. Okay, so this exercise is done. I'm fairly sure that you may have thought of something, some interesting aspects in which digital could make your job or business better. So what has digital done now is it has created a lot of new roles. Correct? These roles never existed 10 years back, or even some of them did not exist 5 years back also, right? A lot of these roles have come up with a lot of platform level specializations, task level specializations, domain level specializations, etc. Correct? And I'm sure that you may have already seen this. Some of you may have an innate interest in pursuing one of this, or might be struggling to get a grip on what these mean. But this is the most interesting thing digital has done. It has thrown a multitude of job opportunities. And it's not even just this. Just think of your favorite TikTok stars or your Instagram stars. Trust me, 10 years back they wouldn't have made any money, right? There was that profession called YouTuber or Instagrammer did not exist. Versus today, there are people who have understood those roles, started digital only businesses, either through the help of social media or search or entertainment or content. But that's the interesting thing digital has done, right? So many multitude of roles, and and it also doesn't mean that you have to be a master of all trades or you should know anything and everything in the world to be good at digital. You could have one or two very, very good skills, and that could actually be your profession. That could actually be your business, right? Or you can learn one trade and slowly learn another and one after the other. And therefore, this, build your career in a very structured manner. So just to get us an understanding of digital and the kind of roles it has opened up, I want you guys to fire up LinkedIn. Now, you may have LinkedIn app on your phone, or if not on your phone, you may at least, you can just go to your web browser tab, open up LinkedIn, and just do a search. And the keyword should be digital marketing jobs. Yeah, and why we are doing this is because I want you guys to have a look at the kind of roles that are there in digital, and we are going to look at this particular domain with a very job marketing first point of view, right? So that you guys know where the employment opportunities are, what are those opportunities, etc. And you may have seen now when you did that search, so many different listings. All the profiles that I listed there are their varying experience, 2 months, sorry, 6 months to 10 years, all of that would have come. And you may have already noticed that the companies that are hiring for digital are not just digital agencies. Some of them are actually firms that are fairly traditional companies, correct? Those are businesses that existed for 20, 30, 50 years, but they are also hiring for digital roles, correct? And you may also notice that there are some senior roles also in the mix, correct? It's not that digital just means a junior role. No, you have vice president or directorial roles in digital marketing, right? Or even if there are some jobs where the designation doesn't say digital, when you go into the job descriptions, you will notice that a lot of digital specific understanding is a must to work in that role. Some of these roles are not even in marketing. They are probably in product or in finance or in some other domain or in consulting. Now that's from a very job market perspective. Now, if we have to understand, hey, why does this job market look like this? Or what are these various skills that people have asked for? What we will do is we will understand to get a grip of it through a very case-led approach. We are going to take a very simple case study, something. So obviously I can't give you guys a 10-page document and ask you to go through all of that. Yeah. All I can do is tell you a simple story that can help you place all this concept very easily. So here comes the story. Ready? I hope you can read this. Take your time to go through the settings. So basically we have Shruti and Bitu, and these both of them are youngsters from Delhi, and they are starting a wedding planning enterprise called Shadi Mubarak. And obviously this is India, the country of big fat weddings, right? They know that the industry is highly competitive, and they understand that they have to build a strong brand, right? Because you know, then only people will trust them with such an important event in their life, right? Which is basically a wedding planning out a wedding. That's often the highest expenditure that an Indian would make, other than on a house. And therefore, they have to also reach the right customers who would actually give them, trust them with the business, give them the right commissions, correct? And that's ultimately they will know how they will plan to have that. That's ultimately how they will grow their business. Yeah, and some of you may have already figured out, you know the story. So you may have seen this movie Band Baja Bharat, right? And some of you may recall how they went about each of their tasks, right? Establishing the company, growing the company, becoming richer, then probably like falling in love with each other, whatever. But of course, this is 2012 ka Band Baja Bharat story. So obviously, if you recall the movie, that worked in very different manner. But realistically, if this is year 2020 and Shruti and Bitu are to start out their company, I'm fairly sure that they will have very different challenges. And what we will do today is a bit of a thought exercise, trying to understand, putting ourselves in their shoes and becoming business owners, and then understanding what each of the domains of business like email marketing or content marketing or social media marketing mean. And there's also one more reason why I have very specifically looked at it from a business owner's point of view. Because when you think from a business owner's point of view, from an employer's point of view, it becomes actually easier to understand what are various functions within digital and what are they fundamentally built for. Clear? Now this is the question, right? Now that they have started the company, obviously when you are very young, you are not sitting on too much money, and you are very clear that Shruti or Bitu are not going to just, let's say, run a television ad, right? It doesn't make any sense. They will have to obviously somehow get their first few clients. Maybe they speak to 30 clients and one or two of them will convert. They are a very young couple starting out in a very competitive industry. So what they do need is people who are immediately looking for their wedding preparation to start, right? People who are in market to looking for a service. Now, how will they do this? Can you guys take a guess? All right. So if they have to reach that initial set of consumers, the one place where they want present is on Google search. They want presence is on Google search. And why is that important? Because a lot of us, we may take some references from friends, but we do go to Google and look for anything and everything and try to connect this back to the basic customer behavior. For anything and everything, people will definitely refer Google. Yeah. Therefore, if they want to reach the right guys and get the right presence, they definitely have, and with the right presence, they definitely have to invest in search engine marketing and search engine optimization. So for this, they will have to obviously go to a local agency. So there are multiple digital marketing agencies working in small, big or large scale. Obviously, they will go to a smaller agency and work with them to put their website up here. So Now there are two aspects, right? There are some names that are coming up organically. No, so for example, if when they look at this page, it's clear that wedmegood.com has probably very good optimization on their web page, has had a lot of conversions in the past with people visiting that website from search, which has led to them organically being present there. Now, that has happened because the search engine optimization for WedMeGood has been done properly. But if B2 and Shruti, who are young, who are fairly new companies, new websites, have to get a listing, they have to do search engine marketing. So they basically do paid advertisements to ensure that when people look at keywords, they could type in anything: wedding planning, event planning, wedding management, event management. They list a certain set of keywords and make sure that whenever people type in those keywords, their ad comes here. Got it? Now that's the role of a search engine marketer. So like I said, they obviously have to either learn these two things and implement it that in their advertising, in the way they have optimized their website, or they have to go to an agency to get it done, right? And that's where a search engine marketing expertise or a search engine optimization expertise comes in and helps a business. Clear? So we're going to move into, so this is how it will list. For example, whenever, here, for example, here's the listing of an ad, and there is an option to call, right? There's some websites, some of them might be a website with an option to either visit a website as well alongside making a call. So what they can do is either they can put these ads, with different call to action to ensure that there's enough traffic coming to their website, or there are enough people calling them up on their cell phones. Now, one more thing to notice is that search engine marketing is not just Google, correct? A lot of people, may actually have a Bing, or some people may have a Yahoo search on their system, or may prefer that, right? So therefore you have to you may have to cover all these search engines, although they may have smaller shares. One more thing is that people go to Just Dial, Sulekha, etc., which are, in the past they used to be called yellow pages, or so, because that's where you go and get list of vendors for any particular function or requirement, right? So you have to ensure that you have to be present on Sulekha or Just Dial as well. So there are companies that help with those listing. Probably you have to pay Just Dial or Sulekha to ensure that you have a search presence. You may have to be present on YouTube or LinkedIn as well. So maybe not a lot for Bittu and her and Shruti's business, but sometimes you have to have a good YouTube presence, right? Or a good LinkedIn presence for people to kind of like search and find you. So let's say you are an IT services company. You want to have a very good LinkedIn profile page, because a lot of your consumers, almost all of your consumers, will be corporates who will search it out on LinkedIn, right? Or let's say you are an automotive company. Where do people come in and search other than Google to understand more about cars and learn about their features? They come to YouTube and search. So therefore you may need a presence on YouTube to ensure that you reach your right consumers. Now that's the role of search engine marketing. Now coming to, this is basically a job description for search engine marketing. So if you have noticed, all of the things written here, right? Obviously, there's a lot of technical stuff over here as well, right? As well as some of the asks. So it's clearly asking, hey, how can you kind of make sure work on content? How can you ensure that the page links work fine, the conversion funnel is working well, etc. So please notice, all of this may sound very technical, but it's actually fairly simple, right? So when very often for someone to become a entry-level SEO to SEO or SEM marketer, 3 to 6 months of training is sufficient. And a lot of agencies actually gave it on the job. So if you have ensured that you have done, let's say, the right kind of certification, so you may need an overarching good digital diploma or a digital course like from Intellipaat to show that you have good digital understanding, you have good technical understanding, and then you show specialized understanding like having a Google search certification or a search 360 understanding, then you can easily land a role in one of the agencies or firms, and use the on-job training to slowly grow your understanding, and later work for larger roles or bigger roles in bigger companies as well. So fundamentally, it's very simple, right? If you're a small firm, you may outsource this task to a small agency, but if you're a big firm like Amazon or Flipkart, your search engine marketer is very, very important for you, right? So it could be a profile that there could be teams which are on very huge wage bills, because you may need a lot of skill sets there, because a lot of business could depend on how well you have managed the search. So you may notice that here, there's a bunch of things that has been mentioned here in terms of what are the platforms that they should know: Google Analytics, Google Tag Manager, Google Search Console. So these are all things that kind of like help in ensuring that search campaigns are measured better, managed better, etc. And some of them are actually not technically search. They might be other aspects like attribution measurement, for example, Google Analytics. And when we, it helps you understand the consumer funnel better in terms of like how many people clicked on a particular ad and came to your website, etc. So a lot of things, a little bit of technology that is directly related to search, and a few things which are related to which are surround skills are actually required for you to be an expert SEO SEM specialist. Now I just want to double click on this. What is the difference between SEO and SEM? That's clear. SEO is organic visibility. So if you organize your content beautifully, have a great landing page, have good descriptors, Google understands that people who come to that website are finding it relevant. Therefore, it will organically push you up in the listing. Search engine marketing is inorganic or paid. So basically, for every click, you may have to pay the money, pay a certain amount, and that will also vary highly dependent on how good your website is, what is the quality of keywords on which you have made a bid, etc. Now, obviously, let's assume that they have started. Let's say they have started search engine marketing, right? So they, let's say, ran it for some time, probably got some stray calls, got some good calls, got some clients, maybe 3-4 of them after visiting. They found Shruti and Bitu to be charismatic, and they started doing business with them. Now, Shruti has a few pictures and weddings that they have covered, right? The next thing that they want to do is have very, very good social visibility, right? Now that they have content, now they have done a couple of weddings, they do want to make sure that they have an amazing presence. Therefore, they will have to get on social media, because all of you guys also know, right? If you have searched either for a relative or for self, very often you have decided on a wedding photographer or an event management company by seeing how some of their other work has panned out, right? And it's actually a funny story that recently BBC covered a couple from Kerala who actually, spoke about how they specifically did their wedding shoot for it to go viral. Now, this is an arranged marriage. They hadn't even met till a few weeks back, but they made sure that they categorically designed the shoot in a manner such that it will go viral, right? Interesting, but that's where the role of content comes in. And content, when it is kind of like shared, it becomes, when it's shared through a social channel, it magnifies in reach, correct? And the more talkability is there around your content, it flies better. So if you have videos, blogs, social posts, that is where it flies better. Now, one more thing about content marketing here is that, and content marketing and social media marketing are very intertwined, but I'll try to like separate it out a little bit for you guys. So in terms of content marketing, so you may have noticed that if it is too salesy, let's say Shruti and Bitu creates a blog, and all that blog says is about how they run other weddings at much better, at very good cost, or put too much about their backgrounds, etc. People will not spend their time on that content, correct? They will spend time on the content if it has some interesting tips about wedding preparations, right? Something that is relevant to them, something that's interesting, unique, visually well prepared, etc. Correct? And that's the thing about content marketing. So, sometimes you don't have to, like, if you noticed SEO or SEM, you notice that their some amount of technicalities kind of came in, correct? Whereas very often a content marketer is differentiated mostly based on his creative set. You know, you could be someone who writes an amazing story, and you could actually be a content marketer, right? Learn a little bit of relevant technology, have the relevant platform understanding like a WordPress or so, but you can be great at it. So it's actually interesting to note that if you take most of the content marketers in the industry and ask them to run a social media ad or a display ad or a search advertisement, they cannot do, because they are specialists in this domain. So very often when young people look at digital, if they don't feel like, okay, they did good in engineering or they did not do well in tech, they just assume that, oh my god, you know, digital marketing is some serious, you know, it's some serious trigonometry. You know, it's too much, it's too difficult and probably will fly over my head. That's not the reality, right? That's so if you see content marketing strategy, you may notice all of this eventually has to lead back to sales, correct? So you're someone who kind of like gets the visitors, give them the right information, then collects a lead, right, with proper permission, and people are already interested in your service because they saw the content, they discovered you through either a social media or through a paid channel, they liked your content, and then they are coming to you for business. Now, one more thing to notice is a lot of people struggle to understand between social media marketing and performance marketing. So you may have noticed Facebook, the Facebook environment. So basically, Facebook environment has Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. So whenever someone says, I am a Facebook marketing manager, very often it's the understanding of this ecosystem that makes them a Facebook marketing manager. And even within this ecosystem, Facebook and Instagram is where there's a lot more ad monetization from Facebook. So basically, Facebook has something called Business Manager, which is nothing but, you know, an advertising platform. So basically, to easily understand, it looks like a dashboard where you basically sign in and you can run advertisements either on Facebook or Instagram, right? Now, all of you might be familiar with a Facebook page. You may have also created Facebook page or groups where you have posted content and it organically reaches a set of people. But now if you have to put money behind this and make sure that it reaches people, let's say your advertisement reaches people either with the intent of getting them to read your blog page or getting them to install an app, all of that, Facebook and Instagram has defined various advertising solutions. So this is how an ads manager looks like. You go into ads manager, you may have all your pages linked to that, your account, and there you can design campaigns for various tasks. So for example, here, after setting up the page, if Shruti and Bitu said, okay, you know, we have started our website, but we don't have a lot of people coming and visiting our website, they can start a traffic campaign. So basically all they have to do is start a traffic campaign to get, which will optimize, the ad will optimize to get more people to the website, right? Or if, let's say, they just want to like they have made a wonderful new video about their services and they want people to watch more of their video, they may use the ads, go into the ads manager, set up a campaign with this particular objective. So very often a marketer's role is understanding the business context, figuring out what is it that the digital or social channel can do for them, and then identifying the right objective, then building the right communication, putting the right budget, everything into that particular marketing activation, and then getting results for the business. Right. So fundamentally, when you hear someone saying, hey, I'm a Facebook marketing manager and I know ads manager, this is basically it. I gave you a very visual, very easy understanding of what that is about. Next. So let's say they have now, made few viral videos. They are all over the internet. They have a very good YouTube, Facebook, Instagram account. Their search is already working well for them. Now think of a scenario where Bitu and Shruti realize, hey, it's not just about having a lot of clients or potential clients. It's about, if I have done a wedding for somebody, obviously I can follow up on their other lifetime events, correct? There's a lot more opportunity to actually make sales to the same consumer or use that consumer's referral to get another consumer, correct? And sometimes they may have to also reach more consumers, but the ones who are not proactively asking for a lot of information. That's where email marketing comes in. So first party lists are basically anything where those are consumers or leads that you have generated. So for example, let's say you guys made an order on Swiggy by signing up on Swiggy. Swiggy has your email and Swiggy sends you a marketing communication or an order invoice over email. It's over a first party list. Yeah. But a third party list is basically when you have not been a consumer or you are not a lead, but the advertiser buys a list of email IDs from somewhere, some provider, and sends email communication to users. Yeah. So basically, these are basically what email marketing is about. Like who does email marketing reach out to? This is the answer. And now basically this can do a lot of things for the brand, right? It can improve the retention. Retention is basically, you can get a consumer back into your website or app and drive another transaction. It can drive loyalty, right? Because you've constantly kept in touch with the customer, therefore customer remembers you. You have given them coupons over email, therefore they are thankful and they like you, right? And result in engagement also. You may have noticed if sometimes an email may come with a nice game, right? Some interesting activity which you can do and win prizes. So a lot of these things can actually be done through email marketing, and very often email marketing is housed within customer relationship management. So most companies have a department called customer relationship management, CRM. This is not customer care. That's different. CRM is basically, in most companies, in 80% of the companies, what a CRM does is basically take care of email, push notifications, SMSs, etc. And to make that, so why? Because very often you may have noticed SMS, push notification, email, they are very interlinked, correct? You cannot split it across various teams and give them. So basically, a team will handle all of that, right? On usually first party audience base. First party audience list is your own consumer base or your own leads. Very often to make, and this is not an easy task, right? If you take up an email, you will notice that they have to be sent at a certain frequency. You cannot bore a consumer with too many emails. Or if somebody wants to unsubscribe from an email, if you go down, there is scroll down after opening an email, there is a point where there is an unsubscribe button which they can use to sign out of that email. So managing a good email list is not easy. So that also needs a lot of automation. And very often, those automation tools will actually take care of push or SMSs also. Or sometimes some of them may have even more extended capabilities. But there are so many softwares or so much tech, martech on this front, marketing technology on this front. So when you actually familiarize with those platforms, you can say that, hey, you are an email marketing manager. So we will just go through a job description of an email marketing manager. You can go through it. I am just going to stay quiet for 20 seconds. So you may have noticed here that it's a fairly entry-level role here. And look at the kind of descriptors that they have added. So an email marketing they have to create email marketing campaigns to assist promotion of products and services to prospective and existing customers, exactly what we discussed before, right? And it spoke about how they have to deploy emails through a marketing automation system. I just discussed platforms like CleverTap, MoEngage, etc. Right? They have quoted something called Pardot here as an example. Spoke about how they have to create various audience segments and manage various lists. Correct. Another good thing, another important aspect is about having the ability to bring in good quality design into your marketing, right? So basically that's what you have to, those are the bunch of things that typically an email marketing manager has to take care of. All other things here are fairly generic asks from the employer, right? So this is what an email marketing manager does. So this is basically a job description from the market. So I've actually picked it up from LinkedIn for one of the firms in Bangalore, where they have listed for a job role within their email marketing team. So you can see all the things that I've discussed in the context of email marketing gets kind of listed here. It speaks about how this particular person has to help in building promotions for their products and services for prospective and existing customers, right? It speaks about the marketing automation platforms on which they should have familiarity, right? Same way, and another aspect that you could notice here is there's a lot of emphasis on grammar, spelling, all of that, right? Because in the end, it's something where there is a very direct personal communication, and you would want to make sure that you put the best visual design into your email marketing communication. Now just skip over, and obviously, so you may have already seen, so they have grown their business really well. They have now presence on search, they have presence on social media, they have presence on content marketing, they started email marketing practices. Now all of this are working well for Betu and Shruti. Probably this means that they're making a lot of money and things are going well for them, right? But now comes the next step. Now you may have noticed they're very aggressive, they're very entrepreneurial. So it's an obvious step for them to ask themselves, hey, why don't we diversify our business? Why don't we start multiple services, right? So along with wedding planning, they have started event management for various other functions. Now Shruti is interested in fashion designing, so she started launching certain designer wear over there. Not only hers, but she started listing some of the designer labels from her friends over there, right? And then certain wedding gifts also, because when it's wedding, people actually have to do a lot of other shopping as well. So she started listing some of these SKUs on her website. So now her website, think of it, it has become a little bit for an Amazon of a Myntra for wedding, right? With very specific things that you won't get anywhere else. But how it's very different now is that there are multiple categories, and on each of it there is very different business thinking that's required, correct? So she has to maintain a good quality website and make sure that all of these categories are listed well, and she keeps the customer engagement high on each of these categories. In such a context, so obviously this is one good example you can take for this is, for example, Men's XP. They were initially a content first platform, then they started doing e-commerce. So you will see a lot of companies kind of like diversifying once they have a strong website presence or a strong online presence built through one or two of their core businesses. Now when they have set up multiple categories, right, and some of them fairly new, some of them could be very high value categories. Let's say a wedding lehenga could cost 30,000, right? So it's very important that any customer who lands on their website has great experience and they eventually buy from their platform. One more thing also that is important for them is to understand, hey, where do these people come from? Do they like click my advertisement in Google search? Do they click on my ad within Facebook? Or they just click on my YouTube channel and come here, right? So when your business is at scale, it's very important to understand where are people coming from, what is the scale in which people are coming, right? And also among visitors, you want to know, is this a new visitor or is it a repeat visitor? Or is it someone coming back to, let's say, file a customer complaint, right? Or is it someone coming back just to browse around and not make a purchase? All of this is very important for them to invest the right amount of time and money in various segments of the website, right? Or on various categories. Another thing to also notice is that if, let's say, people are coming into the website and not making a purchase, they have to think hard. Oh, why are people not converting, right? They have come and checked out the dress, they have checked out the price, they come to the add to cart, they have added it to cart, later they checked out, right? Some people just come browse, they don't even add it to cart, so probably they did not like the product. Some maybe they had, and maybe they hated the overall look and feel of the website, maybe it did not look premium enough, right? A lot of things, or maybe they searched for some product in the website and did not get it. So all of these aspects become very crucial to understand how to restructure their website or their business. Therefore, they have to use tools like Google Analytics, right? So basically, what I have done is, and the interesting thing about Google Analytics is it's free. So if any of you have a website, you can easily tie it to Google Analytics with a very simple process. I'm not getting into the technicalities of it. You can always refer Google for that. So if I have opened up a Google Analytics window, so I can't unfortunately show, let's say, uh, my employer's window. Therefore, I've just shown my personal Google Analytics profile. So you may have noticed here a lot of tabs are available. Real time basically is a tab where you can see what's happening real time on the website, various audience types, acquisition, behavior, conversion, attribution, basically where do these people come from, right? All of these aspects are here. And if you notice some of the callouts here, users, the number of sessions, what is the bounce rate, what is the session duration. Bounce rate is basically how many people kind of like leave a page after they land on that particular page. So a lot of these aspects that kind of like help understand all of this better is encompassed in Google Analytics. So you may have also, some of you may remember, while reading through the job descriptions for Google search or email marketing, these were also briefly mentioned. Why? Because you have to tie back some of the work that you did in search with your information you get from analytics to get an overall picture of what happened to your advertising. What happened when people clicked on it? Did he convert? Did he not convert? Did he land on the website? Did the website load? Not load? All of that will kind of come together by getting this holistic understanding. Yeah, so that's where for any marketer, very often they will have to understand Google Analytics, or in some cases there are specific mobile attribution platforms like AppsFlyer, Tune, AppSeller, etc. in the market, which are also another subdomain of digital. Not getting into it, that might become too many details, but conceptually that's in a similar space. All right. So, and why is this Google Analytics so critical? Because and now this is just a screenshot that I have picked up just from the Google Analytics website. So it integrates with various other marketing technology platforms. So I already spoke about search. Same way it can integrate with Google Ads, which is basically a platform like Facebook's Ads Manager, where you can go run advertisement on various Google properties, or you can see even Sales Cloud integrations, or marketing clouds, or display video 360. All of these are basically DSPs, or demand side platforms, which are basically advertising platforms. Don't think about it too much. Basically think of this as various marketing technology, all of them kind of being integrated to Google Analytics to give you some amount of insights as to how your campaigns are working, how your website's working, etc. So I'm going to summarize over here. So what we have done is taking Shruti and Bittu as an example and their business as an example. We spoke about various domains within digital, right? And with this, the intent is that you guys should have a very systemic understanding, a top-down understanding of what each these domains are, right? So that's something that we spend time on. And what we also did, that we kept it very practical oriented. I did not have a very busy slide with some 20 pointers and flow charts, etc. We took a very simple business case and used that to kind of help you reflect on digital marketing, so that you got an understanding of this, right? And that's exactly what courses like Intellipaat does. run by Intellipaat Edge, right? It gives you a very specific understanding. So whereas if you just go learn Google or Facebook, you are learning only one side of such a huge domain. It's like imagine if we all tell about the story of how of 10 blind men and an elephant. So blind men basically happen to kind of like come across an elephant in their friend's yard. One of them went and felt up the trunk of the elephant. Another person happened to nudge against the feet. uh, some person actually caught off its ear, and they all came back and said that, hey, the elephant is like a cylindrical object. Another person said, no, it's like a huge uh, you know it's like a huge garden hose, right? So everyone had a different perspective, whereas if you actually zoom out and you look at it with clarity, you will not, I mean, if you look at it with a holistic perspective, you know actually what that animal looks like, right? It's the same thing about digital. So courses like the ones that Intellipaat is kind of bringing for you gives you this holistic understanding in terms of, hey, what is the role of digital marketing in business? How, as a job, as a prospective um, job searcher, what is it that is there in it for you? How can you kind of like build your skill sets, right? Next is also about career path. So sometimes, let's say you start as a search engine marketing manager or a search engine analyst. You may not know, hey, after this, where do I go? Or what is that domain that I can learn and build on? And so that overall I am a better marketer, right? Or I'm a better business person. So sometimes you will need the help of these courses to understand which is the next domain to target. So for example, if a lot of my juniors may have actually started off as in Google search, but they wouldn't initially have a perspective as to where the next specialization should be, right? They sometimes use certain courses like this to kind of figure out what is the next path ahead, right? Another opportunity that a course like this brings in is that obviously there are various industry experts who will come and like talk to you. There will be a lot of folks of different experience and different backgrounds within your batch, right? In your batch, there will be people from varying backgrounds, which means that you may have to kind of when you do your assignments or when you have your offline conversations, you will understand and connect much better to this industry, right? So this is largely where I would summarize the course for today. So I'm just going to like compile a few questions, and if you have anything new, please send it over chat. I'll be happy to kind of pick it up and answer them. Okay, cool. So one of the questions that I got now, basically, if I were to just paraphrase the questions, it's more about, hey, I'm in my final year of so and so degree. How do I get into a digital marketing course? Like, should I do a digital marketing course? So here's the thing. So very often, our education, whatever curriculum that we follow, may not make us job ready. Correct? You will have, for example, you're doing a BBA. So you may have a good business understanding from there, but you may need certain amount of practical learning to kind of ensure that you are job ready. Therefore, picking up courses like digital marketing is always beneficial for you. Now, another advantage about digital marketing is that you may have noticed it's highly actionable, right? You pick up that course, there's always one way or the other that it will be beneficial for you. This is not something that a lot of other domains can claim. I will give you an example. Some of the folks might be doing, let's say, voice over IP or a networking flow or a networking course, right? So you basically, that skill that you learned will be relevant only when you hit that particular domain and work for that exact same role of a IT administrator or a server administrator, right? But when you learn something like digital marketing, you may have noticed that skill you can use in your business, in a family business. It might give you an idea about some new businesses that you can start, right? Or if you're someone young and trying to like show some credential in your resume to ensure that you get a job in a consulting firm or an agency or a client's or a brand, you have something to show, right? Or even if you are someone who doesn't even want to get into digital marketing career per se, but just wants to enhance your skill set. Let's say you are a sales manager or you are working for a dealer or a distributor. Whatever is your domain, learning of digital will add something to it. It can either land you in the exact same domain that you want, but it can also help you in numerous other ways. Another query that I got was, what's the difference between Google certifications or Salesforce certifications or Oracle certifications and holistic digital marketing courses like the one that Intellipaat has? So here's the thing, right? We should always be clear, differentiate between domain understanding and platform understanding, right? So think of it this way. Think of a department like finance. Like within finance team, what do? They basically take care of the balance sheets and the cash flows, and they keep basically the scorecard and takes care of the financial health of the organization. Now, how do they do it? They may have various digital tools. They may have ERP softwares that help them to do that. So if they have to be good at their work, they have to have two kinds of learning, two kinds of understanding. One is domain understanding. They should know what finance is, right? They know how finance should work in a real life world. That they get by either doing a master's of finance or doing some on-job training or working with a senior accountant or a finance manager, etc. They should also learn the relevant ERP software or financial tools to ensure that they're able to operationalize it. So in the digital marketing world, when you're talking about a Google certification, for example, it's basically like how a finance manager knows ERP. So it basically teaches them more executional things, as in, okay, if you were to become a search engine marketer, how would you decide on your budget? How will you set up the campaign? What is your bids, etc. But if you need to have a holistic understanding, so just take the finance example. If you want to be a good finance manager, you should know finance, correct? And finance cannot be taught by the software guys who runs finance. It has to be taught by specialists, right? That's exactly why you should have digital marketing courses in your profile. So for example, you may have noticed in this demo class, we discussed about 5 or 6 various domains, subdomains, and connected it back to a business, connected it back to a consumer. That holistic understanding is the key aspect of your skill, because even when you join a company, let's say if you take the interview, some of the interviews questions could be on your technical understanding and platform understanding, but a lot of it could still be around larger top lines, like how can this one particular segment subdomain add value to business, correct? How can it help in overall marketing? How can it add value to the consumers? So understand that courses like this helps you, give you that larger perspective, and that will always set you up for success in your career. Either it will help you with an entry-level role, or help you in a career transition, or just become very, very good at what you do. Yeah, I hope that I've answered that question. So another query that has been posted is basically this: how do I decide which is the subdomain to choose? How should someone decide whether should they do Facebook or search, etc.? So only thing that I would leave answer to that is this: just by reading what that particular domain is from a short description, you will never be able to understand whether that is your cup of tea. Is it something that will keep you interested? Is that something that will give you the right salary for and the career progression? Is it something that you will be skilled and good at doing, right? When you actually do a course is when you will have those couple of hours spent on each of these domains, right? Explaining them in detail. So imagine here, look at the clarity that may have come across, cut through to you when we spend 5 minutes on a topic. Now imagine us spending 2, 3, 4 hours on each of these topics. You will not only get a width of the understanding, but a depth also of the understanding. So some of the things which actually looks very technical to you, you will soon realize how easy it is, right? And whether you will be able to do it, or is it something that you'll be capable of doing it or interested in doing it, right? Interested in doing. So that's the larger advantage when you actually dedicate a larger time frame of, in a course. And when you have academicians, industry experts, etc., speaking to you and clearing your doubts and taking one to many sessions, that really helps you build that holistic knowledge. Cool. So another query that I have from one of the social channels is about the pay. How much is the pay that one can expect? So it depends, yeah, based on, are you in your first year of experience, or are you in an entry level role? Are you doing an on the job training, or do you already have 3-4 years of experience which you are enhancing with some amount of digital understanding? All of this will eventually add back to what is the pay that you get. But one more thing to notice is that it doesn't mean that, let's say somebody has 3 years of experience in sales, and let's say you start doing an entry level role in digital today. So maybe you have to take a pay cut or a lower pay and you start. But 2 years down the line, you're someone who has both sales and digital experience. Your business understanding could be much, much better. You might be much more proficient. So in the 6th year, hypothetically, let's say you are giving an interview. Given that you have 2 years of experience, no one's gonna people will definitely give some value to your previous experience as well, because it makes you much more smarter as an individual. Because eventually in the end, it's all about how good at business are you, how good at marketing are you, how good at sales are you. Digital is just a way of doing it much more successfully. Therefore, eventually in the long run, it's going to add value back to you, right? Rather than saying, hey, I am in sales, I invested 3 years in sales, so I just have to just do sales forever. Yes, it might be true, but learning digital might help you tomorrow to land even a sales role in a digital company. Got it. So it actually expands your reach as a job seeker. Cool. So thanks a lot, folks. I think I have answered most of the queries that have come through. So I'm going to close in on the session today. Thanks a lot for joining, guys. I hope it was useful for you guys. Thanks a lot. Have a great weekend.